1. The following is part 3 of an ongoing story. Now is the tale of how I met Sourbeard, the most painful beard to be around that I had ever met or heard of. However, I have to begin with a lot of backstory, why I had to go to Sourbeard's room in the first place. It started with my sister trying to contact me. As I mentioned in my first increment of the story, my family has had a lot of emergencies recently, and that's why I transferred to be closer to them. So I finally have to tell the tragic backstory. Trademark. It all started when my older sister got in a car crash. My mom had severe injuries on both legs and needed double knee replacements due to the level of damage. My sister, however, got it far worse. She ended up with a gash on the back of her head and a traumatic brain injury. As a result, she has some problems including a restricted field of vision and double vision. She can also no longer write, read, although she recognizes some words, perform math, and usually can't tell how far away things are from her. She had to drop out of college and struggles with severe depression because she believes she lost all of her potential. I still love my sister, through and through, and I'm grateful every day that she kept her personality and is still able to laugh with me when she's in a good mood. My sister sent me a text while I was at the gym, which said, "It's about Mom, can I call?" She uses the voice-to-text feature on her phone. I ran back to the apartment and attempted to call. My phone screen was black, but I was definitely not low on battery. I couldn't wake it up. Panicking, I rushed to the door of the one person I knew who was good at fixing tech problems, Sugarbeard. He answered the door, confused. "I need help." "Phone," I blurted. Yeah, come in." The place wasn't as messy as his appearance usually was, most of it. There were mysterious corners of trash sitting out, and stains on the assorted furniture. The bedrooms were both dark except for lights for a video game, or TV flickering in it. He took me into the kitchen, which was shockingly clean and organized, even though it was full of only junk food, energy drinks, and Mountain Dew. There were posters of anime girls on the walls with aprons. All right, my roommate is in an intense gaming session, and we don't want to disturb him. Okay. My phone screen went black, and it won't respond to anything. I know it's charged, though. He took it from me and began to examine it. Then I heard an angry roar from one of the rooms.
"We went over this! No 3D girls in here except figurines!"
The most painfully bearded guy I'd ever seen stormed out one of the rooms. He wasn't fat, but he was heavily unkempt. He smelled of Cheetos and Doritos, and was wearing a trench coat. Inside, he had a very weak chin, not nearly covered by weak spotty facial hair. He had greasy brown hair and an even greasier-looking shirt under his trench coat. Piles of chains spilled out of his pockets. Even worse than any of Sourbeard's appearance, though, he was a real-life incel.
Why is there a female here?"
"She needs help with the phone, that's all," Sugarbeard said.
"Of course. Females always asking for things and giving nothing of what we deserve in return."
I was aghast. "It's not like that at all," Sugarbeard protested. "Besides, I already know she's a lesbian."
"The perfect excuse to not perform the duties of a woman."
She huffed.
"She'll still manipulate you, just like—"
"Stop!" Sugarbeard managed softly.
"Fine,"
he said, crossing his arms.
"You're on your own when she breaks you."
He stormed back to his room. I was too shocked to manage a single word. "We might want to go to my room." I found out very quickly who was the one trying to keep things on the cleaner side. When he turned on the light, I saw a room which was a neat, nerdy shrine, other than a lot of candy wrappers, dirty clothes in a pile, and Mountain Dew cans. Surprisingly, his bed was made. Less surprisingly, posters from everything from Mo Girls, from obscure anime to high-detailed D&D art hung on his walls. There was a display case of figurines with a bunch of video game characters, dragons, and anime characters in it. Most of them were on the tasteful side of nerdy. most of them. Then I saw what he was playing on his TV, and I finally could relate to Sugarbeard a little. It was the original Teen Titans animated series. Good taste, I said, pointing at the TV. Thanks, he murmured, turning red as a tomato. I had the feeling no one had told him that much. He flopped on his bed and fiddled with my phone a little more. He handed it to me now, lit up. Let's check it works. Can I have your phone number? I was a little cautious, but gave it to him. He called me, and it worked fine. I had no idea what he did, but I urgently needed to talk to my sister more than learn about how to fix my phone in the future. I called her up and learned my mom had taken a fall from pushing herself too hard to do things around the house. My sister couldn't get her up because her eyes were really bad that day. Luckily, my sister had quick thinking and called one of the neighbors. We decided we should still take my stubborn mom to the orthopedist to make sure she hadn't damaged her replacement on the leg she fell on. When we got to the doctor's office, I noticed I had 2 texts from Sugarbeard. Sorry about Sourbeard, he was my only friend in high school. Felt a little pity then. Would you like to hang out and talk about Teen Titans sometime? Said the second. Well, maybe. Next time, Alana tells me how Sugarbeard used to be. 2. I, 20 and female, recently started a new retail job about 2 weeks ago. Surprisingly, it's been going really well. The majority of my co-workers have been extremely sweet, and customers seem to love me. Unfortunately, on my second day I met what would be the pain in my neck for the first week. We'll call him Tobacco Beard. Or TB for short. TB was a stocky, 22-year-old male who smelled of tobacco and cigars. He was a total weeb, nothing wrong with that, but just about fit the bill of your average neckbeard. He wasn't exactly socially awkward per se, but he definitely seemed to lack an understanding of what was and wasn't socially appropriate. At first, this didn't bother me, as I had just met him at this point, and I understand that everyone has their weird qualities. On my second day, I was introduced to TB by one of my female co-workers who was giving me a tour of the store aisles. He started out by complimenting my bee earrings, which I thought was super sweet. He then told me it would be cool if the little honey pots dangling from them were filled with real honey. Okay, a bit out of the ordinary, but all right. As the day went on, I talked to him a few more times in passing. He seemed to have a great personality despite being a little weird. And I enjoyed the small talk. I learned we both have ADHD, which I assumed would explain his lack of social awareness. There was more banter between us about our interests. I learned we had more things in common, but I didn't think anything else of it. Although I'm not a big fan of anime myself, there are a lot of my friends who are, and I have a love for Asian and Oriental cuisine. His eyes seemed to glimmer at this. Later on that night, after things started to slow down, I was talking to one of my new co-workers about my age. For context, I'm very petite, and I look 4 years younger than I actually am. Almost all of my co-workers assumed I was 16, which is an assumption I've grown accustomed to. When TB caught wind of this, he asked me how old I really was.
Wait, how old are you actually?
I'm going to turn 20 really soon. I know I probably don't look it.
Oh, well, at least you're still cute.
I sort of awkwardly chuckled and said thank you, but this was my first indication that he might have been attempting to hit on me. The time to prepare the store for closing was near, and I was tasked with recovering the shelves in one of our seasonal decorations aisles. It just so happened that TB was instructed to do the same.
Sir, do you have Snapchat?
I used to, but I really don't use it anymore, I'm sorry.
Oh, then maybe I can ask for your number later.
Yeah, maybe later though, okay?
Okay, I'm very bad with women.
Here we go. It was at this point that I knew he was hitting on me. I awkwardly went back to what I was doing, trying to wrap my brain around what exactly was happening. I'm not very good at telling people no, and I got easily overwhelmed. So looking back, I'm mad at myself for not voicing how I felt. And then he asked,
So are you dating anyone?
A bit surprised. Yeah, actually I am.
Okay, cool. That's nice.
I purposely didn't tell him whether or not I was dating a guy or girl. You see, I don't exactly look straight. I have really short hair, I tuck in my shirt and cuff my pants, I wear a lot of weird jewelry. And a surprising majority of the time, people automatically assume I'm a lesbian. And to be honest, I was really hoping the same would hold true, and TB would think I like girls and leave me alone. I was surprised, however, when he correctly guessed I was dating a guy.
So what's your boyfriend like?
He's really amazing and I absolutely adore him. He's going to college right now to become a therapist. The only problem is that he lives on the other side of the continent.
What? Have you two ever met before? Have you touched him yet?
Unfortunately not in person yet. I'm really hoping to meet him next year.
So, you don't know anything about him?
Well, he's sort of been my best friend for the past 3 years, so I think I know him pretty well. You see, my bestest BFF was the one who introduced him to me, and eventually the two of us ended up becoming extremely good friends too. We just recently started dating.
Huh. Well, I like to keep my best friends as best friends. I don't start dating them. Then I'd have one less best friend.
Oh, dude, we're still best friends in a way. It's just that we're together.
Are you two still going to be best friends when, you know?
He makes overly sexual gestures. I'm appalled. Dude, neither of us want that. Both me and my boyfriend are asexual. For the uninitiated, asexual means we don't experience sexual attraction to anyone, men or women, but are still very romantically in love with each other. While we're super open about it and do not mind explicit jokes from our good friends about the two of us, someone I met less than 3 hours ago having the audacity to talk about me and my boyfriend in that way is when I have a problem. The night continued. TB decided to tell me what gross sexual fantasies he would act out if he had a girlfriend, as if that would somehow impress me. Again, I met this man 3 hours ago. I remember a moment when I got so overwhelmed by this and blurted out, "Not in this Christian establishment!" To which he replied that he would even act it out in the store. My skin absolutely crawled. As I was trying to leave for the night, TB caught up to me and forcefully handed me his phone. He told me to put my number into his contacts. And because of the fact that I can't say no mixed with my desire for him to just leave me alone, I obliged. On my way home, I told my boyfriend and my BFF what had happened. Both of them wanted to kill TB, but maybe just this once I can be glad both of them live 4,000 miles away. A few days pass, I barely see him, thankfully, but I was still extremely uncomfortable with what he had said. In passing, he asked me if I would go to a smoke shop with him, and I told him I couldn't because I was underage, not that I would want to anyway. He then shoved a cigar under my nose and told me to smell it, which, dude, why do you have that with you at work in the first place? Later that night, I talked to one of her CSMs and told her what happened. I pleaded that I did not want to make someone lose their position over one uncomfortable encounter. She said she would talk to a store manager about what happened, and reassured me that he wouldn't be in any big trouble over just this instance. I felt relieved after that. I didn't want to cause an issue for anyone on my 4th day. The next day, however, TB was called to the store manager's office and was promptly fired. I felt absolutely horrible and called one of my friends crying that night after my shift. I didn't want to be the reason someone lost their job, but my boyfriend and other friends agreed I had done the right thing. A little while later, I learned I wasn't TB's first offense even. Apparently, he's made remarks to customers about their wedding nights. There was even an instance where he made a gross comment about a customer's 4-year-old daughter. Hearing that one made me absolutely seethe. I just hope he learned his lesson about boundaries and what is and is not appropriate. 3. This is a story titled, "We Don't Talk About 2017." Imagine every Reddit trope you've come to listen to, and that's basically my ex. She is a choosing beggar, entitled, a Karen, a legbeard, and just rude, especially if she doesn't like you. For the story, let's call her Karen Beard. Where do I even start with this train wreck of 7 years and 5 days of my life? I guess with disclaimers. 1. This will be a long read. 2. I don't see myself as completely innocent. 3, you can probably turn this into a drinking game. Take a shot for every red flag you hear, and drink every time you shout, "The fuck were you thinking?" That out of the way, let's start with myself. This started back in 2009. I was playing an MMORPG. By that point, I've been playing this a few years. I was in an online relationship with who I can only believe to be a guy, since there was never enough evidence proving otherwise, or I could just simply be mistaken. I finally gave up on them and moved on. How did I meet her? I was one who really just kept to myself and soloed everything. Sometimes I joined pickup parties. I was sick of guilds that demanded you give but not get. Example, can you give me money and I pay you back later? I never believed in that. I would rather show them how to earn money instead of just giving it, or they just become dependent and never learn anything. I wouldn't mind running missions, dungeons or whatever. I was happy to help. I would usually drop what I was doing and wait for them to show up, but would ask if they could get me some amount of supplies as compensation for my time, easily recoverable in costs during the run. I sold services and helped till I got bored doing that. Then one day, a friend told me about a guild he joined that challenges its members. After finding out they have a trial to even join, I was interested. I applied and passed my tests easily because I had enough experience, basically a solo mission. I get in, and suffice to say my above attitude, while I can understand is slightly a bit of an asshole move, annoyed enough members that the leader, my ex, was informed and she started hanging out with me. She understood I was trying to help people instead of giving a quick solution, and we became friends. I was also oblivious to the fact that one of her on and off again boyfriends was the co-leader. I should also explain my belief is I don't talk to my exes. Hers is the exact opposite. She started by adding me on Skype so that we could chat off game as well. Cut ahead a bit, and she wants to voice chat. I wasn't ready, so I said I would just text responses, which was acceptable. After some time, I eventually got to the point I joined in the voice chat, and we got along great. I would say probably around a year later, I started finding an interest with her, especially after finding out she lived, according to her profile, the same state as me. Turns out after asking her about that, she didn't, but had family near me. In this year, we mostly just chatted as friends, played the game. Normal things. How did I start dating her? If you asked Karen Beard, she'll tell you I started it. Reality isn't as such. I more or less was role-playing and she thought I was coming on to her. Eventually, she went along with it and decided to start dating me. We became official on December 7th, 2010. After becoming official, I decided to take what I now know as a neckbeard nice guy's gamble by sending a particular adult pic that I'm sure I don't have to explain. Luckily for me, she was fine with it. Around July of 2011, we eventually met in person, when I saved up money and using my credit card paid for hotel and flight to California to spend time with her. At this point is when the red flags start waving, and if I could make a quilt with all the red flags, let's just say you could use it as a distress signal. During the trip where I spent roughly 10 days there, I saw maybe 24 hours overall with her. Starting with me getting out of the terminal and getting in the car. The first thing she shows me is a paper bag used to hold a single bottle of alcohol filled with various condoms. After getting settled in the car, she asked if I wanted food, so we drove and stopped at the first place that we came to, the local IHOP. This eventually became a tradition for us, going to IHOP at least once when one of us visits the other. Once finished eating, we went to check me in at my hotel because I was her secret for this time. This is important. So we check in and get a room key. Go upstairs and open the door to be greeted by a nude man on the couch. Quickly leaving, we go back to the front desk. Turns out he called too to complain. We are given an apology and new room keys, which this time is people free. I have my first time at the age of 26, and I give her a gift. a nice necklace I bought for my state. She will eventually lose this or pawn it. Either way, it left me disappointed. To summarize, the rest of the 10 days involved one of a few things. Me waiting for her at my hotel, walking or taking the bus to her work to wait for her, waiting in the car while she conducted business, waiting for her whenever she left me while she tends to family demands, mother and grandmother who are equally as big when it comes to being entitled Karens. When I did spend time with her, it was only a few hours at a time, while I spent the rest of it disappointed, crying, or feeling abandoned, only to forgive her the next time we met. Her first thought, when it came to passionately hugging, involved looking up adult videos, whether animated or not. Random stories in no specific order. Teddy bear. My father used to travel overseas a lot, and would get various gifts for my mom on his return. He was also in the Air Force, and one particular gift was a huge stuffed bear. My mom loved it, and has kept it till this day, and it's older than me. I thought it was a great idea and decided to do the same. While working at Walmart, I saw a really big stuffed teddy bear that was just really soft I thought she would enjoy. So I bought this $60 monstrosity and sent it out. The cost was about the same. She said she liked it. Cut to a few weeks later, I get told her family gave her crap for it, and she gave it to her friends saying her mom died, so I gave it to her for comfort. This was the first gift I really gave her too, for our first Valentine's Day. Examples of entitlement. 1. She is that kind of person that if she sees a toy on a shelf, she will demand the pricing from the shelf, even if the toy or item in question is not sitting where it is supposed to be. The worst part is, she will have a good chance of getting away with it because she would not give up until she got what she wanted. 2. We went into a McDonald's after visiting friends 600 miles away from where I live. And after waiting in front of the store for a couple of minutes, the place is dead. She yells to the back something to the effect, "Anyone gonna help us?" with a rude attitude. Someone comes up apologizing, so with a curt attitude, will place her order and before going to the bathroom demands a free ice cream for her troubles. I ignored that, placing my order, and as we leave, she asked for her ice cream. I said we didn't get one, but that was after we were already driving to avoid her going back and demanding it. I got shit for that. Black Friday comes around. By this point, I have started giving her some of my paycheck and buying her a cell phone. So we go to a Best Buy to buy her a new phone. She has already done some research ahead of time, walking up to an associate without so much of a "hi, how are you" or anything, declaring what she wants, not what she would like, and if her demands, because she was clearly demanding, were not met, to get her a manager now. I eventually wandered away, not wanting to be part of that because it was just making me uncomfortable. Sad thing is, she more or less got what she wanted. I should be happy considering I paid for it, but I told her she scared me when she did things like that, but couldn't really explain why. 4. Ever want to go somewhere with this lady? No matter how much advance notice you give her, she will always keep you 30 minutes after you plan on leaving minimum, so she can wash up, put on makeup, and who knows what else. 5. She is the kind of person that will go to a store, buy something she only needs to use once, and then return it after. One example would be buying carry-on luggage and just return it at Walmart. 6. She is not afraid to demand the manager if she doesn't get what she wants, and will usually get something just so the poor manager doesn't have to deal with her anymore. 7. She has stated many times that if I were to be injured or disabled, she would not take care of me and leave me for dead. At the time, I would think this opinion would change and stayed with her instead of just saying, "Sod off, I'm not dealing with it," because she would frequently change her mind about things. 8. Accused me of cheating on her on several occasions, though she flirted with guys she knows are interested in her. And now religion. There was one point early on. She told me she died on a hospital bed and swore she saw the afterlife before being revived. Cut to later on, I had a very vivid dream. I was working at Walmart, and I encountered my grandmother, who was long past, rest in peace. I should explain that in a lot of my dreams there's no dialogue, it's more of empathic transmission. To make the story easier to understand, I'll put it into words. I told my grandma I missed her, and she replied back that she was proud of me, and to keep doing what I'm doing. That's the nutshell of the conversation. Before waking up, I hugged her. Cut to later that day, I told her about my dream, and thinking she would be the one to support this, completely dismissed it. There have been many times her church, her family, as well as herself, claimed that I am not Christian enough because I don't go to church. She literally gave me an ultimatum to go to church, or she would have to break up with me. Being the responsible doormat that I was, I complied by walking to the local church because, fuck spending money on this, I hated it. First day I went in was a bit early. I sat down in the back away from everyone. After greetings and whatever they do, they let us get up and greet everyone. My mistake was staying in the room and making eye contact with people, because they all wanted to shake my hand to the point they tried to force their hand into mine, despite my clear desire of not wanting any of it. Second week, I read my Bible head down. People still didn't take a hint. Weeks 3 and 4, I left the room till I heard the preacher speaking again, and I just sat there and listened. The worst part about the whole experience is instead of my ex wishing to discuss the sermon or anything about religion, she just ignored this fact, occasionally asking if I went and leaving it at that. This ended more or less after a month when we broke up the first time. Family. For the most part, all of them are just as entitled as she is. When I told her later on I saw a lot of her mom in her, it wasn't the compliment you might expect, because I saw the worst flaws in her that she shared with her mom. Her mom was just as bad of a choosing beggar, entitled Karen, and instant victim in situations. Did you ever listen to someone telling a story, and they use that high-pitched, whiny voice? She did this all the time. Usually, when sound came out of her mouth, it was either religion, an insult, or both. Her grandma, according to her, would steal, lie, and do whatever she felt she deserved from her daughter and granddaughter. Her grandfather was an entitled bigot, and even dared to cheat on the previously mentioned grandmother before they even got married, which was why they divorced. To say I dodged a bullet is an understatement. I dodged the train carrying the bullets. Dog. Disclaimer: I strongly believe in adopting and not buying. But in this, I made an exception. One of the last kind things I did for this woman was buy her her very first dog. She found one from a breeder. She asked me to buy this for her, to help her cope with moving and not feeling alone. So being the person I am, I coughed up $750 for this corgi breed that was discounted because it was flawed. Bankruptcy. I wish I was making literally anything in this topic up. But just before she broke up with me, she admitted she stole money from her mother to file bankruptcy, and after filing included my name specifically so I could not come after her for money she would owe me after she did the breakup. Roughly $1.3 thousand in total from the ring to the dog and personal loans. I do not to this day expect to see a cent, but I know she'll be fucked in the future should she wish to try to get loans anyway. Breakup. This part started probably around 2014. I decided that one day during her visit with me, we would look at places to rent together. We spent a day looking at ones I learned about and another day looking at ones my mom found for us. We ended up settling on the place I currently reside. So after she left for home, we started planning her move, at which point she broke up with me. Now, I should have just taken my loss and moved on. Oh, listeners, how I wish I did. Sadly, I didn't, and we made up and got back together again. When we did get back together, I told her any financial help is getting stripped to bare bones, and she accepted this. She also accepted me not going back to church unless she was here with me, which never happened either. After planning her move and getting my dad to help her, he started making reservations. Got to about a week before my dad would go out, and she cancelled. Thankfully, my dad didn't lose any money on this, or I would have told her off. The second time this happened was in 2017. My ex decided behind my back, and as a surprise, to ask my dad for a second chance. He agreed and did the same thing. 4 days from my dad going on the flight, she once again cancelled it, trying to quote religion BS and whatnot, eventually ending the relationship with me. My dad, thankfully, according to him, didn't lose anything out of this financially. Random conversations after the fact that Karen Beard is Karen Beard, and me is, well, I'll let you figure it out.
I know you hate me beyond reason, but if you could manage a civil conversation with me for 15 minutes, I would appreciate it.
Give me a good reason.
I have come here. My mom is in the hospital, possibly dying.
And?
They're trying to take her service animal.
And I should care why.
I didn't contact you 6 months ago for bad reasons. How much is left for payoff on the S8?
Her last phone I got her. You want the phone, it will cost you over 1.3 thousand. You still haven't given me a reason to be reminded you still exist.
Because I'm human, and I can prove I may have sent the text, but I didn't cheat.
Cheat or no, you did way worse.
What did I do that was worse?
You used me for your self-gain and broke your word.
Aside from breaking your and my heart both and disappointing and angering your amazing dad.
That last part pissed me off. I'm glad I never took your lazy, selfish drama train wreck of an ass in.
Now I'm glad I grew up since then.
Okay, pay me for everything you owe. The dog, personal loans, and ring I'm convinced you pawned for money.
No, it got stolen, and if you would give me a copy of the receipt, I could file with my renter's insurance to get that reimbursed.
Yeah, I don't have that.
Can you go to the jeweler and get one made?
I'll ask, but that doesn't cover the other amounts.
I'm trying to handle one thing at a time.
I'll believe it when I see it, and you don't have a leg to stand on in my eyes, in short order. 1, to contact me to say you're in town and your mom would be dying. I couldn't care less, she's your mom, not mine. And my interaction with her, while cordial at best, wasn't fun for me, or worth taking 4 days off to be used as free labor. 2, repaying me. I have 0% confidence till it happens, and even if you do, it will change nothing between us. 3, unless, for reason 2, I don't want to see you, and as far as I'm concerned, you're dead to me. So I fail to see why you're trying to contact me.
I won't bother you anymore at the moment. And as you say, we're dead to one another.
Clearly it's one-sided, or I wouldn't be hearing from you after your meltdown. 1.25 years ago. When you threw everything I did for you back in my face, then hid from responsibility by hiding behind a bankruptcy you could only afford by stealing money from a joint bank account and a cease and desist letter.
Actually, I contacted you 6 months ago to make things right. But the minute you heard me, you hung up. As for the joint bank account, which one was that? Don't remember one unless it was...
Then, well, the name of the bank isn't important. I'm talking about the one you had with family.
I never had one.
Fine, $750 for the dog, $100 for the vet bill, $100 for car registration, $10 for laundry, and roughly $325 for the ring.
Would you please at least take the message off the voicemail?
Author's note. After getting my phone back, I changed the voicemail for her line, calling her out on all her entitlement, and also declaring this is no longer her number. I'll consider it once I'm paid. This is already long, but the text ended in me showing proof of a money transfer and her saying she'll sort it out. She never did. In short, if my ex is listening to this, fuck you. If you have any remaining honor, which I highly doubt, then own up to your debt with me. If not, let's never ever meet again. Bye, Felicia. 4. So this guy I served with in the Marines, who I'm going to call Shaggy. My friend gave him that nickname since he had kinda messy hair. Doesn't quite have your typical neckbeard appearance, since that would be out of rags, but he did sometimes rock a pedo stash, and was a bit overweight for a Marine. He did check the boxes for being obsessed with anime and was a self-proclaimed otaku, having horrible hygiene, keeping a collection of knives, and having a very warped sense of reality. His bad hygiene was especially sucky for me and the rest of my peers when we got deployed on a Navy ship as part of an MEU, Marine Expeditionary Unit. We all lived in a very cramped living space, so his smell would infect the whole aisle. I heard from others that they had barely ever seen him shower or brush his teeth. We would try telling our NCOs, direct superiors such as corporals and sergeants, to do something about it, but since they lived in a different aisle, they weren't as concerned as we were about this walking CBRN threat. The problem got worse when he got put on ship tax, which is when Marines get assigned temporary duties by the Navy to help out with basic jobs. Shaggy's job was in the deep sink in which I believe they'd wash dishes and other cooking equipment, and this guy would always come back to our living quarters soaking wet, as if he intentionally jumped in the big washing sinks they had there. The worst part was that his boots would be soaked through, and his feet started getting kind of rotten-like, which was not a fun addition to his already putrid scents. Eventually, he had to see a corpsman about it, and luckily the duties only lasted a month, so he was back to his normal level of bad sense once he completed his month of ship tax. I don't remember us really caring too much about his hygiene after that, because he either actually started cleaning himself, or our sense of smell had been destroyed after the past month, so literally anything smelled better. Shaggy would also constantly watch anime in the aisle, and I don't know exactly what show it was, but it seemed to have some pretty weird scenes, as in sexually weird scenes. But on to the next part of the story, which is about this guy's warped sense of reality and his crazy stories. I recall Shaggy telling me once about how he was scared of stopping in Europe on our deployment because he had a crazy, big-breasted French ex-girlfriend, his words, not mine, who would always somehow locate him no matter how discreetly he would enter the country. He then elaborated on a time that he was apparently on vacation or something, chilling in a cafe, and this very real ex-girlfriend of his barged in out of nowhere and smothered his face in her large breasts, his exact words. Shaggy also told some of my buddies before that he had been trained at an early age by the Italian mafia to be an assassin or something along the lines of that. As far-fetched as those stories sounded, he seemed to actually believe in them, and would tell a lot of people those same stories. If it were true, though, it must have been quite a downgrade, going from being Agent 47 to a Lance Corporal who basically just does IT work. Shaggy got PCS'd, transferred, to a different unit shortly after we returned to the US. And I truly hope he improved his hygiene and storytelling, or else life's gotta suck for whoever he's serving with now. Thanks for listening. 5. Last time I mentioned that everything we do, Brother Beard has to make it awkward. This goes into tabletop games that we play as well. Once we found my father's Dungeons & Dragons player guide, as in the original, pre-advanced, and it has no variation numbers at all. The only classes were Fighter and Magic User. So with permission, we started up a campaign. For some reason, Brother Beard desperately wanted me to play a female character. I wanted to do a male magic user because this is when I started to flesh out my character that I use in various games to this day. So Brother Beard made his character a female. We get started, and for some reason, we were in a modern setting. We get to a point where we were hiding in a bathroom of a law firm place, and he decided to have our characters have sex. I was done with the game. However, he made playing video games awkward as well. Every female character he would say, "Arrgh," when he sees them. It got to the point where our friends would say, "Yes, Brother Beard, she has boobs." To close this out, here is a small list of characters he would make for an MMO called City of Heroes. This is a game where you can make any hero of your own, and fight a slew of villain groups. Now, I don't care if you make gender-swapped characters, however, Brother Beard made it weird. There's a group of villains that are a gang that started to mutate, so they call themselves the Trolls. He had a female character that shouted, "Girl trolls are strong too." There's a group that are robots being controlled by a huge brain that is trying to take over the world by making a huge army of robots. So he makes a female for breeding purposes, for robots. One villain group is a cult of ancient wizards that have all died off years ago, that are coming back by possessing people via these thorns that pierce people's hearts. He, of course, made a female to breed with the guys in order to populate their forces quicker. You know, waiting 9 months for a baby and then 18 years to train this child to become a functioning adult in the cult. The biggest one, though, is Dr. Vasilok. He kidnaps people and harvests their good organs and sells them to the highest bidder, meanwhile taking the rest of the flesh and making robot zombies for his younger army. You guessed it, Brother Beard made a female zombie robot to breed with Dr. Vasilok. My younger brother had enough with this one. Brother Beard, he says, Vasilok made a huge battle suit out of rotted flesh and hangs out with smelly guys all day. I don't think his end goal is to score a woman. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Neckbeards in the Wild. Episode... It's the one that comes after 68, but before 70. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use and sent in stories for use in this video. If you enjoyed the video, share the video around. If you didn't enjoy the video, share the video around. If you were neutral, share the video around. And also pet your cats and dogs for me. Alright, what day is it? This is Sunday. This is our first Neckbeard video of the year. And our first Sunday of the year as well. No, it's not. It's our second Sunday. I lied. It's our second Sunday. Never mind. Cancel the video. But it is indeed our first Neckbeard video of the year, which is good. Right, there are no shoutouts today, and the next birthday shoutout is later in the week, that's fine. That's the 11th, I think, but don't quote me. Okay, so I'm going to wrap things up here for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.